get to stand in the middle of a pan in Botswana with the sun setting. Peaceful, peaceful heart.
So now, if I'm going to take my vehicle into the wilderness, what am I going to carry? What are the must-haves? And I want to talk about specifically the vehicle, the bits and pieces of the vehicle I need to keep the vehicle running.
Well, look, you need definitely to carry a spares kit, and that's going to depend on how new the vehicle is,
Yeah.
where you're going, how far away, how remote you're going to be.
Yeah.
And I think people often get that wrong. They'll take their vehicle to a dealership to have it prepared for the trip,
Yeah.
and they have no clue about where you're going to take the vehicle. So I'm always very critical about what spares you should take,
Okay.
understanding what are the weak points of your vehicle, what are the parts that will actually stop your vehicle going, like a water pump. And when was your part last changed? If it's really long in the tooth, change it.
And keep the
You can't keep the old water pump.
Oh yeah,
because the
water pump's not a good
probably
not a good
idea.
example, but some things you could keep as
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
as a usable spare.
You know, so wherever you can, the old part you've just taken off makes a great spare.
Yeah.
It's only a spare. So I'm making sure that I've got a good sort of complement of spares without taking too much, but there must be spares that will stop the vehicle going. Because if I can limp
Okay,
through with something.
like what? Give me an example.
Well, a water pump is going to be my classic one, because that's definitely belts, drive belts, hoses,
Yeah.
definitely.
Hoses, not repairing hoses.
You can repair hoses, and that comes onto another kit of stuff we take.
Okay.
A repair kit, because quite often something will happen on the vehicle and you just won't have the part. So if you can take a comprehensive box, as we call it, of repair goodies and gadgets, get some great stuff. Zip ties, duct tape, rescue tape.
Yeah.
This is stuff that you can pretty much wrap around anything.
Yeah.
An old car in a tube.
Yeah.
Cut one of those up,
Yeah.
couple of inches,
Yes.
roll it up into a nice big roll. You'd be surprised what you can fix with it.
Okay.
So it's just little tips and tricks.
Okay.
Bits of chain. I carry some chain. If you break a U-bolt on the chassis, on the axle where the leaf spring is, chain it back up with some bolts and washers.
Right.
So it's about being inventive, creative,
Right.
and if you can't do the work, then someone else who comes past will probably be able to help you if you've got specific parts.
Same goes with tires.
Yeah.
If you have never changed a tire and you have never used a tire lever, that's not a reason for not carrying one, because you might find somebody who has.
Yeah, true.
And you've got all the equipment, you've got the spare inner tube in your vehicle.
Well, you know, most tires these days run tubeless because they're running cooler on the tar roads and you're driving. So the fact that it's running tubeless is great. If that tire needs to come off the rim, for you to reinflate it with a little compressor that you've got, you're going to need a tube.
Yeah.
Not easy to get that tubeless tire back onto the rim.
No.
So pop a tube in and you've got yourself sorted.
Yeah.
So I carry an inner tube, a couple of tire levers.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to take a tire off a rim.
Yeah.
It's challenging, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
You know the tubeless repair kit? These plugs you
Yes, the plugs, yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
There's some great kits around. You can see a good quality kit by the tools that it uses.
Yeah.
Definitely carry one of those.
Yeah.
Good tire gauge, pressure gauge.
Yeah.
Because I often find that people get that wrong. People get tire pressures wrong for different circumstances. And I think if you've got your tire pressures right, you're gonna probably minimize the problem with the tires.
Yeah.
Good quality tire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Valve caps.
Yeah.
Never those shiny ones.
Are you a big advocate of tire pressure monitoring systems?
I think the system's great. It's not cheap to fit them. It certainly does show you a huge advantage of a tyre going down and could probably even save a tyre. But if you're going to be meticulous about checking tyres, it's a nice to have.
It's to me it's actually of more use on the high-speed gravel roads, because it gives you that early warning before you've shredded the tyre, because you've slowed down from 100 to 0, and during that period on a flat tyre, the tyre's torn to pieces.
Well, you know, if a tyre's going to go because you've underinflated it and you're driving underinflated, it's going to burst because
that's not going to. Yes.
You know, that's
no.
Help you.
I'm talking about
but
a
slow
normal.
puncture.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My arm's getting very tired. Is your arm getting tired of the camera? I'm going to swap sides. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not used to carrying something like this around.
Yes. Well, this is.
So we've definitely got that whole system with tyres. So you're going to need some equipment now. You've got to take the tyre off the vehicle. I actually don't use the high lift jack to do that.
No, I don't like them. It's
I
too
just
dangerous.
think it's a dangerous, it's an essential piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's a piece of equipment for recovery. If this vehicle sunk down to its axle right now on the salt pan that we're on, you'd need a high lift
It would
jack.
be a very useful
You'd
thing.
definitely need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I think because you're going to change a wheel 90% of the time on a reasonable surface, a nice block of wood, plywood, hydraulic jack, that's really what you want. I think that for changing tyres is a lot safer. And on the hydraulic jacks, you know, they come with a little point. Well,
Yes,
actually
yes.
I weld something on that jack. I weld
Little-
a V or cradle.
Little cradle.
Little cradle.
Oh, okay, for the axle.
Just for the axle.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then you know, 4 points you can get the hydraulic jack.
Yes.
Normally the 2 tons too small. It's
Yeah,
flimsy.
fiver is about.
Fiver is definitely about the sort of size.
Yeah.
So with tyres, if we've got something to take it off, we've got our toolkit, we've got spares. You can debate what spares you should and shouldn't take, because there are also some service items you need, and there are also the occasional
For a-
fuel filter.
For a fuel filter,
filter's
Trans-Africa, that's a big deal, isn't it?
But, you know, with bad fuel and taking precautions on fuel, it's so important. It really is. So I carry a good number of fuel filters.
Okay.
Air filters I carry. The washable ones are quite good.
Okay.
Carry a couple of those.
Okay.
Put them in, wash them,
All right.
let them dry the next day, spray them up when you put them in.
Okay.
That really works very well.
All right.
But fuel filters, definitely. You just never know when you're going to get that.
Shock absorbers. Have you had shock
Always
absorbers
take
fail?
shocks. You know, I'll take one front and one spare,
Oh, really?
definitely. And I'll take the same make.
But
that
you're
I fixed
talking
to the
about
car.
long distance
Long
overland.
distance, absolutely.
Okay.
A shock is, once a shock starts leaking, you can throw it away. But
Sure.
you can still drive the vehicle.
That is true.
It's not going to be, you know, at the end of the day, it's not as safe, but it's not a show breaker. But on a long distance trip, where I may not actually get the shock absorber easily,
Okay.
then I carry one.
Okay.
One front, one spare.
Okay.
But bushes, much more important to carry the bushes.
The shock bushes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right.
The
Yes.
shock
I've had
bushes you
them go
find-
on me.
They go, people change shock bushes for the very tough polyurethane bushes.
Right.
Not bad if it comes with a shock.
Yes.
The shocks I was fitting to some of the vehicles we built were conies. It's a great shock, and I thought of changing those bushes to polyurethane until I spoke to the guy who designs the shocks and one of the representatives. And he said, for heaven's sake, don't do that. He says, take the bushes, the rubber bushes there to fail, and over time it's a replacement part. And it makes a lot of sense because it does absorb some extra vibration. So, you know, as long as you're using a good quality shock and the shock's not set too hard, then I think you're probably not going to damage the shock absorber most times. But you know, the other thing we've got to consider is, what if we got stuck here? You know, it's just you and I. What would we carry in the vehicle?
I'm changing sides again.
Yeah, we are going to enjoy the sunset though, because that sun's going down nicely.
So it's okay. So what would we do if we? Well, you're saying if we got out, we'd.
Well, you know, if you and I have set off now, and then we've got a high lift jack, as you can clearly see, and we've got 2 spare wheels, and then we've got a winch on the front of the vehicle, which is great if there's somewhere to hook it up to, where here we would have a little bit of a problem. We've got some great recovery mats.
The
They're
Max
good.
tracks.
Max tracks. I like Max tracks.
Yeah.
I've used the aluminium ones. I've used most of them, really.
Yeah.
Max tracks are light, and okay, they're not going to be the toughest, strongest, but they're tough enough. And in sand and snow and places, brilliant. And you know what? You're normally driving, so who's the one who's got to go and collect the tracks from behind? It's not you, is it? Yeah, I thought so. Well, someone's got to carry them, and they're heavy. The Max tracks aren't though, and they're actually nice.
but,
You know. So it's a great
okay.
piece of kit, you know, and kit's
All right.
changing all the time. But you know, you could use other things
Yeah.
too.
Decent recovery straps, because you may very well find, and this has happened to me more than once, somebody comes along, please may I help you, and he's got no decent recovery equipment at all.
Yeah.
And then
Or a
you can
strap.
use your safety stuff and your strap, and you know your equipment, and
Well, you know,
Yeah.
when I see that happening, I think that the most dangerous time of any sort of recovery is when you've got people with a lot of equipment and no experience in using it.
yeah,
And that for me is scary.
yeah,
Or you've got people with very cheap equipment and actually it's not safe. So it lends both ways, as it can be a really difficult problem.
Right.
I think if you are going to engage in any sort of recovery, you want to make sure you've got a really good kit.
Yeah.
Shackles that are rated.
yeah,
Straps,
rated
properly
bows,
rated
and
straps,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
making sure that you've got gloves and you've got protective gear that you need.
Yeah.
So it's safety at the end.
How are you on winches?
Yeah, we've done a lot of winching.
I'm not a big fan of winches,
It's like
but
it's like an insurance policy, you know. I did
yeah,
a trip.
I've used it so much to help other people, but very rarely for myself.
And
But there
often the
was a
case.
trip, actually, my trip to Botswana in 2011 when I did my Angola-Botswana trip.
You found
Oh, I would have loved
Yeah.
a winch that day.
Well, I tell you now, when you get into that situation when you need to use a winch,
Yeah,
you'll pay anything for that winch.
absolutely.
So, you know, and again, matching the right equipment to the
Mm.
vehicles, really, really important, because I've often seen that people have these great big lumps on the front. They don't look after the cables or the plasma ropers that a lot of people are using now, which I think is really good. So I'm a great advocate of if you're going to carry recovery equipment, carry good kit and understand how to use it properly. So if you're going to help someone, it's a safe situation, because
Yeah,
when something goes wrong from a winching incident, it gets ugly.
yeah, that can get very
And
nasty.
of course you're in the middle of nowhere, which is a real problem.
So what else are we thinking here? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we haven't dealt with in terms of the vehicle.
We've got a spares kit, we've got repair kit, which we've talked
Yeah,
about.
puncture repair kit with
Puncture
spare
repair kit with
valves
tyres.
and
Of course you need a
patches and all that
compressor
kind
as
of
well.
thing.
Tyre
Yeah,
compressor.
yeah, that's common
And,
sense.
well, compromising on that's no good either, because if you're going to compromise on the tyre compressor,
Mm.
you're going to get something that's going to overheat, it's not going to pump the tyres up.
Good question. Do I need to buy the ARB, which is probably the best compressor out there?
It's
Or
one
can
of the
I-
good compressors.
Yes, but can I buy for a quarter of the price an equivalent Chinese made? What's
You know
your...
what? It's really interesting that, because I have to look at some of the big brands and I have to wonder, where are they all made? Now I think you can take, I wouldn't take
Now, when
the
I say
cheap
Chinese, I'm
compressor.
talking about the inexpensive ones, not
Absolutely.
necessarily made in China,
Yeah.
but
And you know, some of those are really good.
well, I've got one and
And
it's
they
in there
last.
at the moment, and I've had it for at least 5 years, and it's still running.
Still running.
It
So
was not expensive.
That compressor, if you were going to use it and you just didn't try and run it for an hour, pumping all the tyres, and you made sure the little air filter that comes on it, which is not great, is clean, it'll probably last. So, you know, it's one of those bits of kit which you err of. If I'm going to go across Africa, I'm going to probably spend a bit more money on my compressor. If I'm doing a weekend
Sure.
trip, I would probably
Sure.
take a little bit more
That
risk.
makes-
I've got
that
2
makes-
spare tyres.
Yeah.
You know, equipment's expensive, so you're actually trying to balance out what do you actually need and how much do you need to spend.
Mm.
The trick is to know that when you do spend money on equipment, buy the right equipment that you need, that's essential, and the luxury nice to haves can come later, or you can compromise with slightly cheaper products.
Yeah, I'm still clients ask me, I want the best pump. I'll give them an ARB.
Look, the ARB,
And,
the small ARB one, where the single compressor, I didn't find was really man enough. They brought out a new one, which is a twin compressor.
That
in
is
a
the one.
box.
That's the one.
That's very nice.
Yeah, that's the
You
one.
know, that's very nice. I've got other compressors I've come across in Europe and that, which, you know, are very, very good.
Mm.
It's value for money. It's like anything when you're buying TVs and hi-fi equipment. What do you actually need, and what is good value for money?
But that's what I'm trying to answer for the
Yes,
for the
yes.
for the Overlander. Do I really need to spend? I know you can go mad and just buy the best of everything, but that's not practical in most people's pockets. So do I spend the money on a compressor, or do I spend the money on something else? That's really what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I would be inclined to go, when you're trying to look at budgets across the line, you've got to go, I need a compressor, I need a reasonable compressor. I will take that. I'm probably not going to use it too often if I look after my tyres, and let's face it, most of the people I've sent on expeditions around the world had really good results from not getting punctures and blasts, because they understand tyre pressures and that. So it's one of those tools you probably will lend someone more than you'll use it yourself. But middle of the road, good enough. Recovery kit, I'll probably spend a bit more money. Making sure I've got good straps, good shackles, because that's a little bit more critical. Tools, middle of the road. You know, I don't want a tool kit that is absolutely rubbish, but at the same time, I don't need a snap-on equivalent of tools, because I'm only using it to do some basic repairs on my vehicle. And, you know, again, when you look at toolkits, they often got more than what you need. They'll have 5 big screwdrivers, and you only need 1 of each. So it's trim back what you don't need and really get rid of it. Try and aim to travel light. We fill the vehicle up with all the stuff we hardly need.